You are going to die long before your body does. The person sitting in your chair 7 years ago is already gone. Their atoms have cycled out. Their beliefs collapsed and reformed in the dark. The thing they once called me has dissolved into the version reading these words now. And nobody held a funeral. Your body has been conducting its own quiet disappearance for years, without asking permission. Every few days, the lining of your stomach replaces itself, cell by cell, and you feel nothing. Every month, you shed and rebuild your skin from the ground up. Your red blood cells live roughly 4 months before being dismantled and reforged. A decade passes, and nearly every cell that once made the physical you has been swapped for a newer model. You have been rebuilt in your sleep over and over by a body that never once interrupted your plans. There is one stubborn exception though. A biologist named Jonas Friesen and his team at the Karolinska Institute found a way to date human cells using the same carbon-14 tracing that archaeologists use on buried bones and ancient artifacts. What they found unsettles in a particular way. The cells in your cerebral cortex, the part of you that thinks and remembers and recognizes its own reflection, are as old as you are. They almost never replace themselves. The thinking part of you is original stock. Everything else around them has turned over many times. So your mind rides inside a body that is, in a real and measurable sense, younger than itself. So who exactly survived? This is the question a philosopher named Derek Parfit built his entire career around. He did not picture a single unbroken self gliding through time like a stone across ice. He pictured instead a chain of overlapping selves, each one dimming as the next one lit up, each one close enough to the last that the whole sequence felt continuous. He kept returning to one thought experiment. A machine scans every atom of your body, destroys the original, and rebuilds you perfectly somewhere far away. The person who steps out to the other side remembers everything. They ache for the same people, they flinch at the same fears. Under oath, they would swear that they are you. But are they? Parfit's view was that the question dissolves before you can answer it, because identity was always fraying a little more each day, and the machine just makes the fraying visible. Your memory is fraying it for you right now. Every time you recall the past, you are pressing play on a recording that has already begun to degrade. The psychologist Daniel Schachter spent years at Harvard mapping how memory truly behaves, and what he surfaced is something you should sit with for a moment. Remembering is an act of construction. Each recall rebuilds the event from fragments, and each rebuild drifts a fraction away from what actually happened. Faces shift. A sentence spoken with kindness in the original gets remembered as cold. Strangers who were never in the room appear there. You have been editing your own autobiography for decades, and the forgery is so seamless that you would defend it in a court against someone who was actually there. So your body has been replaced. Your memories have been quietly rewritten. What is left of the person you were 10 years ago? A ghost made of habits. The way you hold a pen, the laugh that comes out before you can catch it. Certain fears you cannot source. Certain comforts you cannot explain. Lodged in your wiring from so far back that they feel like the floor rather than something built upon it. And yet you walk around convinced you are finished. That you have arrived. That the sculpting is done. Jordi Quitbach and Daniel Gilbert ran a study involving tens of thousands of people across ages and continents, asking 2 questions. How much have you changed in the last 10 years? How much will you change in the next 10? Almost everyone could see how far they had come before. Almost no one believed they would keep changing after today. They called it the end of history illusion. The feeling that this version, the one breathing right now, is the final edition. You have felt this certainty settle over you. You feel it now. It is almost certainly wrong. The person reading these words is someone your past self would not fully recognize, and someone your future self will look back on with patient bewilderment. You are dying in installments, and you cannot stop it. Here's where the story turns. If the old you is truly gone, swept away cell by cell and memory by memory, then so is every version of you that ever failed. The teenager who humiliated themselves at 16, the version that was not enough, that said the wrong thing, that made the choice that still visits you at 3 in the morning, That person is not hiding inside you, waiting to be forgiven. That person has already been carried away and replaced, and you inherited their memories, the way you inherit an old house, furnished by hands you never met, full of rooms you did not build, yours now to live in, and repaint and throw open to whatever light comes through. The same is true of everyone you love. The parent you argue with today is a later edition of the person who once held you as a child. Decades of their own small deaths and rebuilds have edited them into someone wearing the same name. When you grieve the distance between yourself and someone you used to be close to, you are often grieving a version of them that already passed away. People demand that those they love stay who they were. They hold them to a snapshot taken in some better year. Nobody is a snapshot though. Everyone is a long exposure, blurred at both ends. And the blur is where the living actually happens. There is a strange mercy in being temporary. Most people you pass on the street treat the self as a fixed object, a stone carving that must be guarded and polished and kept behind glass. They defend their identity the way a museum guards a marble bust, terrified of a crack, terrified of dust settling. But the self was never carved once and set on a pedestal. The self is weather over a stretch of ocean. The shape holds long enough to name it, but the substance is always moving through, always arriving and leaving at the same time. So if you are weather, then the dread that sits on your chest each morning before the day begins belongs to a self who is already half dissolved into whatever comes next. The grief that arrives without knocking, the slow certainty that you peaked years ago, that the best chapters were written before you understand their value, that you missed the open door and it has closed forever, all of that belongs to a version of you that is on its way out, being quietly rewritten, even as it feels permanent. You were never trapped in stone. You were held by weather, and weather moves. There is a particular freedom folded inside this idea, and it is the quieter kind, the kind that does not announce itself. The old philosophers kept arriving at it from opposite ends of the earth, without ever speaking to each other. The Stoics wrote it down in Rome. The meditators found it beneath the Buddha tree. The hermits carried it into the desert, and the scholars copied it in the libraries of Baghdad. They all touched the same understanding, which is that the self is something you learn slowly to release, rather than something you are asked to carry intact. The neuroscientist Anil Seth has put it in modern terms. Your experience of being a self is a controlled hallucination, a best guess your brain generates moment by moment to make sense of the storm of signals flooding in from the world and from the body. You are never handed a finished self at birth and told to keep it whole. You are constantly guessing one into existence, and because it can shift, you are not etched in stone. Think of how many times you have already changed your mind about something you were once certain of. The political conviction you carried in your 20s that now embarrasses you. The person you could not live without, whom you eventually lived without. The future you were sure you wanted, that lost its color when you got closer to it. Each of those was a small death of a self who once felt permanent, and each of those deaths made room. You have been afraid of disappearing this whole time. The whole shape of your anxiety, the gripping, the replaying, the need to be understood and remembered and seen. It all rests on the assumption that there is one continuous you who must be preserved at all costs. But you have been disappearing continuously since the day you were born, and you have survived every single instance of it. The disappearing was never the threat, it was the mechanism. The next time you catch yourself aching for the person you used to be, or gripping in fear toward the stranger you are becoming, remember this. You have already lost every version of yourself you have ever been. You lost them one by one, cell by cell, thought by thought, without ceremony, without anyone marking the day. And despite all of that losing, despite every small death that has already carried a piece of you away, here you still are, breathing and beginning. You are going to die long before your body does. Every one of those deaths has been the same quiet thing, wearing a different face. The chance to begin again.